Hello everyone and welcome to this section. Alright, in this section we're going to be looking at vulnerability assessment. So let's look at what we'll be learning in this section. So the first thing we'll be looking at in this section is how to install and configure Nessus. Alright, so Nessus is going to be our first vulnerability scanner that we're going to be using, and in this case I'll be showing you how to get it installed and configured, and then we'll go over the interface, and then secondly we'll be now finding local vulnerabilities with Nessus. So in this video we'll be actually looking for local vulnerabilities on our network and vulnerabilities on local computers on our network. Alright, we will then move on to checking for Linux and Windows vulnerabilities. So we're going to be looking at checking for OS specific vulnerabilities in the sense that we will be targeting Windows and Linux operating systems. Alright, we will then move on to installing and configuring OpenVAS, alright, which is our second vulnerability scanner and is also a fantastic tool and an alternative to Nessus. Alright, so in that video we'll be looking at installing it, configuring it, and then finally starting it up. And then finally we'll close up by checking for Linux and Windows vulnerabilities with OpenVAS. Alright, so in here we'll be checking for OS specific vulnerabilities, the same as we did with Nessus. In this video we're going to be looking at how to install and configure Nessus. Alright, so Nessus is a vulnerability scanner or a vulnerability assessment tool. Now getting to installing Nessus, before we get started with that, I just want to let you know that Nessus has two versions. It has the home version, which is essentially the free or the non-commercial version, which allows you to have the full set of features that Nessus has. However, it is restricted to a very small amount of IP addresses that you can scan. More specifically, I think about 16 IP addresses. Whereas the professional feed, or the professional version as it's called, is commercially used in enterprise environment where at least your target scope is quite large. Alright, so in this course we're going to be using the free or the home version as it's called, because it will more than likely suit our needs, because again we're learning how to do this and obviously how to protect ourselves from these types of attacks. But irregardless of that, the home version will work perfectly. The professional version is more focused on more specifically enterprise type of environments. Alright, so let's get started. So you just want to open up your browser and you want to go to www.tenable.com/product/Nessus home. Alright, I will leave this link in the resources section so you can check it out for yourself. Alright, so as you can see here, Nessus Home allows you to scan your personal home network up to 16 IP addresses per scanner with the same high-speed, in-depth assessments and agentless scanning convenience that Nessus subscribers enjoy. So essentially it contains all the features, but it is just restricted to up to 16 IP addresses. So now you need to register for an activation code. Your activation code is like your serial code for your version of Nessus Home. Alright, so in order for you to get the code, just enter your first name and your last name with your email and just hit register, and they will send you your activation code. I have my activation code on my desktop. They sent it via email and I got it instantly. So I've got it just to make sure I can save time here rather than me checking for my code and then entering it. So I already have my code here and we're good to go. Once you hit register, it's going to take you to the download page. If it doesn't take you to the download page, what you want to do is go to products and you want to go to the Nessus downloads under product resources. Alright, so Nessus downloads, and on that downloads page, all the Nessus downloads will be sorted out depending on their operating system and the operating system architecture. Alright, so Nessus 7.0.1, that is the latest version as of recording this video. It was released on the 11th of January 2018, and you can go ahead and look at the release notes. Alright, so as I said, all the versions are arranged depending on the operating system they run on and the architecture of the operating system and the system that they run on. So for example, we have the Windows version 64-bit, which runs on Windows Server 2008, Windows 7 2012, Windows 7, 8 and 10, and also Server 2016. Then you have your 32-bit version which runs on Windows 7, 8 and 10. Awesome to see this. It's a fantastic tool because it also gives you multi-platform access. Alright, but we're going to be using Kali Linux for this. So we have our nessus.tmg file, which is essentially a Mac OS file. So you can download that if you're running Mac OS or you want to run this on your Mac based operating system. You then have your Nessus 7.0 Debian. So this is Debian 6, 7 and 8. So any Debian distribution or Kali Linux. Alright, so this is the 64-bit version. You then have your Debian 6, 7 and 8, your 32-bit version. So depending on the version of Kali Linux you're running and your system or your computer system's architecture, whether or not your processor is 32-bit or 64-bit, you can choose the one according to your system. Alright, so you have your Red Hat versions and your Fedora versions, your Ubuntu versions. So it's really fantastic because it's a very multi-platform tool. So what you want to do is just download the Debian one, the Kali Linux one, as you can see here. Just click on the download link. Yours could be 32-bit or 64-bit. I already have mine downloaded, so we can just minimize this and let me head over to my downloads folder. Fantastic. There it is. There's the file. So you now might have noticed, or you might be asking yourself, well, what exactly do we do now? How do we move forward? Well, we need to install Nessus. All right. Now, Nessus, the Nessus file that we downloaded is a .debian file. All right. Now, Kali Linux has the Debian package manager already installed and configured, which essentially is pretty much the standard one that comes with all Debian based distributions. All right. So it has the Debian package manager, and that's how we're going to get it installed. So just right click in your downloads folder and open a terminal here. All right. Now let me just zoom this in so we have a greater idea of what's going on here. All right. Fantastic. Now that we've zoomed in, we can get a great idea of what we're doing. All right. Fantastic. So we are using the Debian package manager. Now, because we're doing that, we need to make sure that we are in root. All right. So if you're not in root, you can just use the sudo command, which we'll do right now. So sudo, and now we're using the Debian package manager. That is denoted by the dpkg. And then we select the I command. All right. So the I command means install, and then you select the Nessus file. All right, and just hit enter. So you can hit Nessus and just hit the tab button on your keyboard or the tab key to auto-complete it, and just hit enter. It's going to start the installation process. I already have it installed, and as you can see, it's going to say here unpacking Nessus 7.0.1 over 7.0.1. So it is essentially updating it, but since it's the same version, it's not going to actually update it. So for you, the installation will be pretty much the same. Just let it complete, and once it's done processing the Nessus plugins, it should be done. Fantastic. Now, something very interesting is being displayed here. Now, you might be asking yourself again, how do we access Nessus? Well, we access Nessus through our browser, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So it's going to say here, you can start Nessus by typing in etc initialize.t nessus d start. All right. It's essentially saying to start Nessus, start the Nessus service. Now, you can write the command that they've given you, or you can use the service command. So service Nessus d and start. All right. So once you hit that, the Nessus service will start, and it's always good to know this command because it is essential to know how to start services. As we looked at in the previous sections, it is vitally important to know what services are running and how to start them. All right. So we have started the Nessus service. Now we need to actually access it. So it is hosted on the local host, and the port is the 8834 port. And as you can see, it's giving us options here if we want to configure our scanner. But we can access Nessus now because we need to actually activate it, and we need to more specifically install it and install and compile all the plugins. So just open up your browser, and I'm just going to open up in this tab. So the local host is 127.0.0.1 and the port is 8834. All right. Now we do not need, if we enter this, you'll see that it's going to give us an error. It's going to say that's a bad request. So it's telling us here that we need to use the HTTPS scheme. All right. So we need to use the secure protocol. So we hit HTTPS. All right. So I'm pretty sure you should be familiar with this, because if you're using a browser, you know that we have two types of protocols, the two types of transmission protocols. We have HTTP and HTTPS. All right. So once you do that, just hit enter, and it's going to tell you have an insecure connection. Don't worry. We need to add this as an exception. All right. So we want to hit on the advanced button here and just hit add exception. All right. And it's going to ask you to confirm adding the exception. I'm going to hit confirm. And now it's going to ask us to create an account. Welcome to Nessus. All right. So what we need to do is just create a username. So I'm just going to call mine Alexis. You can, name this to you or at your convenience. I'm going to give it a password. So I'm just going to say Alexis123, just a simple password there. Again, you can customize it as and how you want it. All right. So I'm going to hit continue. And now it's going to say register your scanner. All right. So you just want to leave this as home professional or manager and enter your activation code. So I'm just going to open up my code here. Now they should have sent you the email, and your email should contain the code. So here is my code. I'm just going to copy it. There we are. Fantastic. And I'm going to close that up. Let me maximize the browser again, and I'm going to paste it in here. And once I hit that, it's going to verify my version of Nessus Home. And once it's done, there we are, setup is complete, and now it's going to start downloading all the required plugins, all the assets. So this will take quite a while, so I would encourage you to just to let it be, you know, go have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and when you'll be back, it'll be done. All right, so I'll get back to you when this is done. Alrighty, so once it has finished compiling the plugins and downloading the plugins, it's going to take you to the login screen. Now, after it's done compiling the plugins, if it gives you an error telling you to reset your cache, it's really very simple. Let me just open a new tab here just to show you how to do that. What you can do is go into your preferences, and you want to go into advanced network, and you want to clear your cached web content. Alright, so once you do that, just reload this page right here, and it's going to ask you to enter your username and the password that we set at the beginning. So I'm just going to enter that right now, and I'm just going to hit remember me and sign in. Fantastic. And you can choose to remember your password if you want to. And there we are. Nessus is installed, configured, and we have successfully done it. So that's essentially how to download it and install it and configure Nessus. So I hope that helped you, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. We will get started with finding vulnerabilities with Nessus.